You know that t-shirt you're wearing right now? Well, it might be hiding a secret, a chemical secret that has health experts and regulators and even investors pretty concerned. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the apparel industry and find out what's really in our clothes. It's a question we probably don't ask ourselves enough, but the answer could actually affect your health. The clothes we buy, the shoes we wear, they can contain a lot more than just cotton and leather. And those hidden extras, yeah, that's what we're digging into today. So here's the game plan. First, we'll uncover those hidden hazards. Then, we'll look at the huge cost companies face when things go wrong. We'll introduce a safety standard that's a real game changer, see how companies are supposed to follow the rules, and finally, wrap up with why all of this really matters.
Okay, let's just dive right in. Section 1, Hidden Hazards in Fashion. We're talking about the risks you can't see, the ones literally woven into the clothes we wear every single day.
And here it is, the main takeaway right up front. The clothes you buy off the rack can have traces of chemicals that are either straight up banned or heavily regulated. And trust me, there's a very good reason they're regulated. This stuff can be seriously dangerous. And one of the absolute biggest risks? Cancer. Yeah, some of these chemicals are classified as carcinogenic. It's a scary word for sure, but it's a real risk we need to talk about. So let's break that down. What are we actually talking about here? Well, we're looking at two major threats. First, carcinogenic. Put simply, that means a substance can mess with our cells in a way that could lead to cancer. The second is hormone disrupting. These chemicals can basically mimic or even block our natural hormones, which can throw our bodies totally out of whack. We're talking about messing with everything from our metabolism to our development, so these are not small things. And you know, these health risks, they create massive problems for businesses too. Which brings us right to Section 2. The high cost of contamination. This covers both the health side and the huge impacts on a company's bottom line. For a big fashion brand ignoring chemical safety, it's like playing with fire. The fallout can be just catastrophic. We're talking about crippling product recalls, incredibly expensive lawsuits, and a trash reputation that can take years to fix. Oh, and on top of all that, you suddenly have government regulators breathing down your neck. It is a very high-stakes game they just can't afford to lose. Okay, so if the risks are this high for everybody, consumers and companies, how does the industry even begin to clean up its act? Well, that's where a standard for safety comes in. Let's get into Section 3, a standard for safety, or we're going to introduce something called the SASB framework. This right here is the logo for the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, or SASB for short. The best way to think of them is as the rule makers. They create these super specific guidelines for different industries to help companies report on sustainability risks, like chemical safety, in a way that's clear, consistent, and that investors and customers can actually understand. So what's actually in one of these standards? It's not just one simple rule, it's a whole playbook. It starts by describing the industry, then it pinpoints the exact topics that need to be disclosed, like chemical management. Then it gives companies solid metrics to measure their performance, and finally, it provides technical protocols on exactly how to report all that data. It's basically a roadmap to transparency. Okay, so we've got the standard, we've got the playbook, but how do companies actually put this into practice? Let's move on to Section 4 and look at the real, practical tools companies use to manage all this. All right, one of the most important tools is the Restricted Substance List, or RSL. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is as a banned ingredients list for making clothes. It's a super clear document that tells every single supplier which chemicals are totally forbidden or at least strictly limited. It's like a gatekeeper for the whole production process. So how do companies decide what goes on that banned list? Well, there are two main ways of thinking about it. A hazard-based approach is pretty black and white. If a chemical has known dangerous properties, it's out, period, end of story. Then there's the risk-based approach, which is a bit more nuanced. It looks at the actual likelihood of you being exposed to that chemical from that specific product. Both are valid strategies. They just come at the problem from different angles. And listen, this gets really complicated really fast because modern supply chains are an absolute maze. A brand works directly with its Tier 1 suppliers, the factories that are actually assembling the clothes. But those factories get their fabrics and dyes from beyond Tier 1 suppliers, the mills, the dye houses. To truly manage chemical safety, a company has to see and control that entire network, not just the last step. Which brings us to our final and, I think, most important section. Why does any of this matter? after all the talk about standards and supply chains, what does it all mean for us? Well, it all boils down to creating a safer future through two key things: transparency and accountability. This quote from the source material really just nails the business case. This isn't just about doing the right thing. When companies are proactive, when they monitor their suppliers and hold them to strict standards, they are actually protecting their own financial health. They're preserving shareholder value. It proves that good safety is just plain good business. And that is the real power here. A standard like this isn't just some boring accounting tool for corporations, no. It's a transparency tool for the rest of us. When companies have to report this data, it gives investors the power to make smarter choices, and it lets us, as consumers, see which brands are actually walking the walk on safety. That's what creates the pressure for real change. So the framework for a safer industry, it's there. The standards are written. The only question left is, now that you know about it, will you demand it? Because the final piece of this whole puzzle is you. Your awareness and your choices are what can turn a standard on a piece of paper into safer products for all of us.